So now I want to get back to eating normally. I want to return to France and enjoy the restaurants rather than trying to put them back on the map.
Kitchen Nightmares wasn't just another cooking show, it was a wild ride of emotions. Every episode was packed with chaos, drama, and Gordon Chef Ramsay's no BS attitude.
I don't know where to start. You, young man, you're caught in this vortex of absolute negativity.
1 minute you're cringing at the filthy kitchens, the next you're rooting for these struggling owners to pull through. What was once unpredictable now felt formulaic, almost too scripted. The heart-pounding tension? Gone. The emotional investment? Not quite there. It wasn't the triumphant comeback we'd all hoped for. Instead, it left many wondering, what happened to the show we loved? So when Kitchen Nightmares exploded onto our screens back in 2007, it was like nothing we'd ever seen before. Here comes Chef Ramsay, charging through the doors of some barely hanging on restaurant, looking ready to burn the place down with just his stare. And we lived for it. I mean, who could resist the combination of absolute chaos, filth in the kitchens, clueless owners, and Gordon's brutal no-nonsense takedowns? It was reality TV at its finest, raw, unfiltered, and full of tension. And let's be honest, seeing him tear apart a revolting dish while dropping F-bombs left and right, that was pure gold.
Wake up! You wake up!
One being more stubborn
I'm telling you one last time.
than the next.
Chef Ramsay's intensity swept through these failing restaurants, and we were glued to the drama. Every episode had that suspenseful moment where you'd wonder, can this place actually be saved? Is it too far gone? Spoiler alert, most of the time it was. And yet, even knowing that many of these restaurants wouldn't survive long after Chef Ramsay left, we were hooked. The drama wasn't just in whether the food was disgusting or if the kitchen staff was incompetent, but in watching Gordon try, sometimes against all odds, to turn these sinking ships around. Remember Amy's baking company from season 6? That episode became legendary for the sheer amount of drama that unfolded. Amy and Sammy Buzaglo's explosive behavior, combined with Gordon Chef Ramsay walking away, made it one of the most unforgettable moments in Kitchen Nightmares history.
No. Don't fuck with me.
Yeah, I will fuck with you. Who the fuck you think you are?
The chaos didn't stop when the cameras turned off either. The drama continued online, with Amy and Sammy engaging in social media battles and claiming the episode was scripted. It stirred up so much controversy that people are still talking about it today. But maybe those claims about it being scripted did hold some truth. How? Well, hang for it. No one really thought so until season 7, which was again a big hit for Kitchen Nightmares.
All of those people you see, they were actors for Kitchen Nightmare.
Then came the long wait after season 7. No new episodes, no updates, just silence. It was like Chef Ramsay had taken his knives and walked off set, leaving us wondering if he'd ever return. Turns out, he got a bit tired of the whole thing. Makes sense, right? Watching your hard work go down the drain when 80% of the restaurants you've rescued still fail could take a toll on anyone. Even Chef Ramsay.
I'm Gordon Ramsay, and it's no secret that over the past few years, things have been really challenging for all of us in the food service industry.
When it was announced that Kitchen Nightmares was making a comeback for season 8, fans were buzzing with excitement. Chef Ramsay, the king of chaos, was back, ready to save more sinking restaurants with his signature blend of tough love and culinary expertise. It felt like a return to the good old days of reality TV drama, where every episode promised explosive confrontations, disgusting kitchens, and hopefully redemption. But as the new season rolled out, that initial hype fizzled. It became clear that the magic that made Kitchen Nightmares so thrilling in its earlier seasons was missing. The show felt formulaic, predictable, and, honestly, a little tired.
I'm heading back into the most obnoxious,
I asked you to take our food.
outrageous, out the door, good luck with the opening, and downright nauseating kitchens across the country.
Oh my God.
Let's break it down. The beauty of the original Kitchen Nightmare was in its unpredictability. Every episode had this chaotic energy where you didn't know if Chef Ramsay would flip a table, throw up in the walk-in, or completely walk out on a hopeless case. But over the years, the formula has become painfully obvious. The restaurant's failing, the staff is incompetent, the kitchen's a health hazard, and Chef Ramsay storms in to save the day with a menu overhaul, a deep clean, and a family therapy session. Once you've seen it all. And that's exactly the problem with the new season. Take the episode at Bel Air Diner in Astoria, Queens. On paper, it sounds like classic Kitchen Nightmares material. A family-run diner that's been in business for 25 years but is now circling the drain. You've got Cal and Peter, two brothers who are constantly at odds. Cal's in the kitchen, Peter's managing the front, and naturally the restaurant is suffering because they can't get along. It's the perfect setup for Chef Ramsay to waltz in and play the hero, right? Except we've seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times before, and the novelty is worn off.
What's going on? I can't do my job if you're not supervising the waiter. You're in the kitchen. I'm not in the kitchen.
From the moment Chef Ramsay arrives, this time via helicopter, because apparently we need more spectacle, it feels like the episode is trying too hard. Sure, the sight of live lobsters in a diner seems a little over the top, but we've seen stranger things in the world of kitchen nightmares. Chef Ramsay starts by ordering a massive spread. Fried tortellini, lamb gyro, lobster BLT, and coq au vin. Because of course, every diner should be serving coq au vin, right? As expected, everything is terrible. Chef Ramsay delivers his usual scathing commentary, calling the tortellini cardboard and the lobster BLT basically a lettuce sandwich. His zinger about the gyro being as Greek as Donald Trump is funny, but feels like it's trying too hard to recapture that shock value humor Chef Ramsay is known for.
Page 74, item 379. And the coq au vin, someone needs to go back to France. I'll pay for the flight. No good.
Then, like clockwork, we move to the basement, where the true horrors of Bel Air Diner are revealed. Rotten meat, mystery containers filled with who knows what, and enough grease buildup to make you wonder how the place hasn't caught fire. It's the same grim discovery we've seen in almost every other episode, and while it's still gross, the shock factor just isn't there anymore. Chef Ramsay shuts the place down, tells them to clean up, and we're back to the same routine.
Oh my God. It's like a scene out of Saw. Is this for real?
The heart of the episode is supposed to be the family drama between Cal and Peter, with their parents hovering in the background, unable to let go of the business. Chef Ramsay steps in, as he always does, not just as a chef, but as a therapist. He gets the brothers to talk out their issues, make heartfelt promises to change, and suddenly, the dysfunctional family is on the mend. But it feels a little too convenient, doesn't it? It's as if the show is trying to tug at our heartstrings. But we've seen this same narrative arc play out so many times that it doesn't hit as hard anymore.
I need to set your differences aside. That's first. Is that possible?
Then comes the menu overhaul, another staple of the Kitchen Nightmares formula. Chef Ramsay whittles down their impossibly large 270-item menu to a more manageable 20 dishes. He takes the brothers to his fish and chip shop in Times Square to show them how to run a kitchen efficiently. It's all part of the standard Chef Ramsay training montage we've seen in countless episodes before. Sure, it's cool to see Cal and Peter learning from one of the best, but it feels more like going through the motions at this point.
Fish and chips, done. We're giving you our recipes.
Of course, we can't forget the big reveal, the part of the show that's supposed to leave everyone in awe. Chef Ramsay revamps the diner with a shiny new retro look, and there's even an $18,000 coffee machine to impress the caffeine crowd. Everything looks spotless, the kitchen is sparkling, and the menu is finally streamlined. But as they gear up for the relaunch, chaos ensues. Orders are getting mixed up, food is coming out raw, and Mom Patty is too busy chatting with customers to actually manage the restaurant. It's a typical Kitchen Nightmares relaunch, filled with tension and Chef Ramsay barking orders. And, as expected, by the end of the night, everything miraculously comes together.
What the f going on here? It's raw. Hey, it's raw.
By the time the credits roll, the brothers have reconciled, the parents have decided to take a step back, and the diner seems poised for success. Fast forward a couple of months, and the diner is reportedly busier, with mostly positive reviews. But anyone who's been watching Kitchen Nightmares for long enough knows that these so-called success stories are often short-lived. There are already complaints about the food and service cropping up, which makes you wonder if the transformation was ever really sustainable.
Spoke with everybody outside. Everyone said it was fantastic.
The problem with Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, and this episode in particular, is that it feels like the show is stuck in a rut. The formula is too familiar, the drama feels forced, and Chef Ramsay's outbursts, while entertaining, don't have the same punch they once did. There's no denying that the show still has its moments, but after watching the same predictable pattern play out over and over, it's hard not to feel like Kitchen Nightmares is running on fumes. At its core, Kitchen Nightmares was always about more than just bad food and dirty kitchens. It was about the people, the struggling owners, the dysfunctional families, the underdog stories. But when every episode starts to blend into the next, with the same recycled drama and predictable outcomes, the emotional impact is lost. Fans tuned in because they wanted to see Chef Ramsay work miracles, but now it feels like we're just watching a tired routine play out on repeat. The spark that made Kitchen Nightmares so captivating in its early days is fading, and it's hard to say if it can ever truly be reignited. It's funny how viewers can surprise you. Even though many fans were getting tired of the same old storylines in the later seasons of Kitchen Nightmares, a lot of them on Reddit expressed a strong desire for one thing to come back: the narrator. Who would have thought that after all the drama over 7 seasons, people would miss the narrator? One commenter pointed out that the show really needs that voiceover again, because without it, Chef Ramsay seems to have lost some of his fire. They argued that while the restaurateurs might be there just for a paycheck, the narrator added an essential layer to the show that kept things lively and engaging. It's interesting how a simple element like narration can make such a big difference in the overall vibe. But here's where it really went sideways. The emotional impact wasn't there. Early seasons had this raw, unscripted feel, like you were watching real people desperately trying to save their livelihoods. In the latest season, it all felt too polished, like a rerun of every kitchen disaster we'd seen before, but with a gloss that made it seem staged. And maybe it was, after all. Reality TV has become more scripted than ever. Fans who once felt the tension and drama just weren't as invested this time around. It lacked that gritty, desperate energy that made us root for these broken restaurants in the first place. Like in the second episode of Kitchen Nightmares Season 8 featuring Basque 46 in New Jersey.
We'll get faster as we get set. Don't go fast too soon. Let's go, Bobby.
From the jump, you can tell we're in for the usual Chef Ramsay routine. Steve and Sandy, the owners, have poured $1 million into this place. Seriously, $1 million for a gastropub? That only opened 6 months ago. Already feeling a little far-fetched. And guess what? It's another classic case of the owners being completely overwhelmed, deep in debt, and fighting to save their restaurant. Sound familiar? Because it should. It's the same story we've seen every time. Then we meet the chef, Bobby, self-proclaimed culinary gangster. First of all, who actually calls themselves that in real life? It sounds more like a character written into a show than a real person. And, of course, like many chefs on Kitchen Nightmares, he's untrained, yet somehow convinced he knows it all. And it's not just him Steve think that too, because why else does he have him working with him for 10 whole years? And not just that, Steve had to hire more people in the kitchen so Bobby could work. Yeah, sure. And Steve has no clue why his restaurant is a failing business.
Kitchen, don't even talk. I'm Bobby. Not only am I the chef, but I'm the culinary gangster.
And here's where things get even more questionable. Bobby's being paid $100,000 a year. Really? For someone who doesn't even know how to make a decent mac and cheese? How is this guy getting 6 figures to serve up soggy nachos and raw chicken wings? And threatening everyone working around him, and even Steve, telling him how to do his work like he is the boss.
I don't handle criticism well, but I certainly won't handle criticism from someone that don't know what they're talking about.
It's no shocker that Chef Ramsay's first taste of the menu is a total train wreck. We're talking overcooked wings, tacos dripping with grease, and a cheese sauce that's more kind of homemade than anything you'd want to eat. But here's where things get wild. After Gordon sends the food back, Bobby, the chef, sends a business card along with some passive-aggressive dishes. Like, who does that?
That would be Bobby's business card.
Bobby,
Fortunato, otherwise known as culinary gangster.
right.
And then, the cherry on top, when Chef Ramsay criticizes the size of the tacos, Bobby claps back with a comment about Chef Ramsay having a small package, saying that's why he prefers smaller portions. At this point, you've got to wonder if Bobby's trying to tank his own career. It's hard to believe any chef, especially one struggling to keep their restaurant afloat, would be this careless, let alone mouth off to Gordon Chef Ramsay of all people. It's like he's playing the role of a rebellious know-it-all chef in a scripted reality show rather than someone genuinely trying to save his business.
Obviously, he's probably got a small package, and that upsets him, so he wants to take it out into my tacos.
And let's be real, any trained chef would know who Chef Ramsay is, and the kind of no-nonsense reputation he has. The whole thing feels so staged, like Bobby's just there to stir up drama for the cameras instead of focusing on fixing his restaurant's glaring issues. Honestly, it's hard to believe anyone would act this way and think it's a good idea. Then there's the whole Steve drama. Apparently, he's so stressed that he's been retreating to his attic office, which looks more like a set designed for maximum sympathy, and even ended up in the hospital from a diabetic coma because of the restaurant's stress. The show really plays this up for emotional impact, but it feels a bit too on the nose, like they're trying to check all the boxes for a perfect struggling owner narrative.
What the is this it? This is the office?
Now, cue the dinner service meltdown. Plates are flying back to the kitchen and Steve is losing it, eventually throwing a dish on the floor. It's almost like we've seen this scene before, right? Every episode follows the same script: disaster in the kitchen, chef has a breakdown, Chef Ramsay has to step in and give a tough love pep talk. Bobby's supposedly this hardened culinary gangster, but after one busy service, he's a wreck. The whole thing feels staged, like we're just waiting for the moment where Chef Ramsay saves the day.
Dude, bleeding, still mooing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right.
Then Chef Ramsay heads into the fridge, and of course, it's disgusting. There's slimy chicken and thousands of dollars worth of rotting food. But seriously, how does this always happen? It's like every restaurant on this show has the exact same issues, and we're supposed to believe the owners are just now realizing how bad it is. At this point, it feels more like a predictable plot point than a genuine revelation.
What is going on here?
And of course, after all the drama, we get the big makeover. The restaurant's renovated, the menu's simplified, because apparently no restaurant on this show can figure out they're serving way too many items and everything looks shiny and new. But wait, Bobby gets a 30-day trial to prove his worth? After all that chaos, we're supposed to believe this guy is going to turn it around? Because one 10-minute so-called heart-to-heart conversation has moved something inside of him. Come on, if this wasn't reality TV, he'd have been fired ages ago.
And there's one thing you need to do. You need to apologize to Steve. Got it?
Got it.
Then there's the final act. What happened next? 2 months later, Sandy's conveniently spending more time with the kids because that's always the happy ending in these stories. And Bobby, in the least shocking twist of all, never came back. The guy who was supposedly so committed just retires from the restaurant industry? It's almost like the whole thing was set up for him to bail, so Chef Ramsay could swoop in and save the day. Meanwhile, the restaurant is thriving, getting great reviews, because of course it is. This is Kitchen Nightmares after all, where every episode ends in a tidy little bow.
Yes, it's small, but it's dynamic.
It looks phenomenal. It's beautiful.
In the end, it's just another predictable Chef Ramsay episode with all the same beats: struggling owners, dramatic chef, disgusting fridge, a makeover, and a happy ending. It feels like the show is going through the motions at this point, and honestly, it's starting to show. Then there's the fact that Chef Ramsay has so many other shows now. We've seen him yell at cooks in Hell's Kitchen, nurture chefs in MasterChef, travel the world in Uncharted. He's everywhere. So Kitchen Nightmares Season 8? It just felt like another one of his shows, blending in with all the rest, not the wild, unpredictable ride it used to be. You've got to hear about this Reddit thread where someone shared their first-hand experience from the filming of the 3rd episode of Kitchen Nightmares. It's pretty eye-opening. So, this person said the tension in the restaurant was palpable as soon as the cameras started rolling. Gordon Chef Ramsay was in the kitchen, totally in his element, yelling at the staff and trying to fix all the mistakes. It wasn't just for show. He was genuinely trying to save a restaurant that was really struggling. As things got worse, the commenter noted that Chef Ramsay's frustration hit a breaking point. He eventually decided to shut the kitchen down completely, which left everyone, staff and onlookers alike, in total shock. The moment was super authentic and raw, way different from the scripted drama that some people think the show leans on. This account really gives the show some credibility. Sure, some parts might be exaggerated or edited for drama, but the real emotions and chaos Chef Ramsay deals with, that's all legit. It's a fascinating reminder that Kitchen Nightmares is more about genuine struggles in the restaurant world than just entertainment. But the new season also lacked variety. Sure, some of the restaurants were in bad shape, but it felt like the same old story on repeat. If you've seen one filthy kitchen, you've seen them all, right? The owners were often just clueless or stubborn in predictable ways. It didn't have the shocking twist that made previous seasons memorable. You know, those moments where you were genuinely shocked that a place could be that bad? This time around, it felt like Chef Ramsay was going through the motions, still passionate, but not quite as fiery.
But I've never been to a restaurant as toxic as this.
Take Love Bites and Socrates, for instance. Now, if you've watched even a few seasons of this show, you might find yourself rolling your eyes a little. It's like deja vu, but with more shouting and burnt food. Here we go again! So, we've got Tess and Chris, our star-crossed lovers turned stressed-out restaurateurs. They rekindled their romance when Chris was working at another restaurant, and now they're engaged but can't even think about a wedding date because their restaurant is a hot mess. Sounds familiar, right?
We haven't planned the wedding, and I don't see us planning the wedding in the near future because of Love Bites.
Chris is running the kitchen all by himself after they let go of their head chef, and let me tell you, he's not handling it well. Anxiety? Check. Constant arguing with Tess? Double check. Line chef Roberto even throws in a classic line about how tense everything is. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of shouting and drama, but we've seen this movie before.
I can't make all the desserts, all the drinks, run all the food. It's impossible for one person.
Tess is trying to help out, but Chris won't let her near the kitchen. He's too busy being a frazzled ball of stress to realize that pushing her away isn't helping anything. His mom, Donna, is there too, looking like she can't believe how much her son has changed. He's gone from charming childhood sweetheart to someone who's one burnt bun away from a meltdown. Seriously, it's heartbreaking, but the episode cannot go without a little family drama, right?
Wow, nothing. You can't help me with anything.
I can help you, but you won't accept my help.
And let's not forget the looming cloud of debt. And they're sitting on $200,000 of it, with debt collectors breathing down their necks. Their house is on the line, and if the restaurant fails, so do they. It's all very dramatic, but as viewers, we can't help but feel like we're watching a rerun of every relationship crisis that's ever been on this show.
We are approximately $200,000 in debt or more.
When Gordon finally arrives, he takes in the lovely surroundings, but it's like stepping into a disaster zone inside. He sees the way Chris talks to Tess, and you can almost see the gears turning in his head. It's time to intervene. So, he meets Tess, asks to see the menu, and surprise, surprise, it's a complete disaster.
Really?
Shut up!
For Gordon?
Leave me alone and I can do what I do.
He orders a spicy breakfast salad, crab cake benedict, and French dip, but what arrives is a culinary nightmare. The spicy breakfast salad, bland as cardboard. The crab cake benedict, greasy enough to make you reconsider breakfast altogether. Chris even throws a bun at Roberto because apparently that's how you solve problems in the kitchen.
Here, fresh. I need a fresh one. Oh, let me grab another bag.
And then we have Tess opening up about her health struggles. She has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and has undergone 25 surgeries. It's a touching moment, but honestly, it gets overshadowed by the fact that we're just watching the same tired script unfold. We feel for her, but it's hard to stay engaged when the show feels like it's on autopilot.
I've been sick my entire life. At 16, I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
As the episode rolls on, we see Chris continue to flounder, and it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You can see the stress piling up, and instead of feeling fresh, it's just more of the same old, same old. Gordon tries to work his magic, but the spark isn't there this time. It's like they've taken a classic kitchen nightmares formula and just rerun it, without adding anything new to the mix.
What's the matter with you? This is the table.
Okay.
It's clear we're left craving something different. More originality, more creativity, anything but this predictable cycle of chaos. While there's definitely some dramatic tension, it all feels so familiar. Till now, it feels like we're stuck in a loop of kitchen disasters and relationship meltdowns. Bring on the fresh stories, please! Gordon meets Tess outside, and she immediately drops the bombshell that Chris is shouting at her. Classic. Tess never wanted this restaurant gig in the first place, but Chris was struggling so much that she had to step in and help out. Now she's wondering if she even wants to marry him anymore. Ouch! She's just there trying to save the restaurant, and you can see the toll it's taking on her. It's all very dramatic, but we've seen this play out 100 times before.
I don't know if I really want to marry Chris. After everything, like how he treats me and stuff when he's under pressure.
After the lunch rush, Gordon decides it's time to have a heart-to-heart with Chris. He lays it on thick, calling Love Bites the most toxic restaurant he's ever been to. You can almost hear the audience groaning because it is so dull, and they miss his fiery outburst. He asks Chris if he actually wants to be in the kitchen, and of course, Chris admits he doesn't. Well, that's a plot twist. Oh wait, not really.
The first thing that has to change here is you, young man. You need to man up.
Then Gordon goes in for the gut punch, confronting Chris about how he treats Tess. He points out that if Tess and Donna weren't family, no one would stick around with how he talks to them. It's like watching a rerun of a soap opera where the main character refuses to change, and you're just waiting for someone to throw a punch.
If these women weren't your family, you'd be.
The next day, Gordon meets Chris's mom, Donna, who's clearly worried about her son. She's the quintessential mom, worried sick, but also enabling Chris's bad behavior. It's a familiar scene, and it feels like we're just checking off boxes in the Kitchen Nightmares handbook. Gordon observes the service and sees more kitchen chaos. Vegan French toast cooked on the same griddle as bacon, wait times of 30 minutes, and a menu that's way too big for such a tiny place. Cut to chaos already, please.
Okay. There's no vegan or vegetarian in any of this area that would love to see some bacon juice on there, right?
As Chris and Tess argue about the steak situation, it's clear the tension is ramping up, but it just feels so done. We've had couples fighting over business woes before, and it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know what's coming, and you can't look away, but you're also just waiting for the credits to roll.
What do you mean?
Well, we were out of steak a while ago, so you
How
did that.
were we
I
out of
told
steak
them
when we
that.
had 3 steaks?
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Gordon takes a moment to chat with Tess's mom, Ginny, who's clearly at her wit's end. She blames all their relationship issues on the restaurant, which is another tired trope we've seen played out too many times. Gordon insists no restaurant is worth what it's doing to Tess, but it feels like he's just recycling advice he's given a million times.
Before we start thinking of the restaurant, we need to fix them. And by fixing them, we need to give them a breathing space. They need to stay.
After calling a staff meeting, Gordon reveals the vortex of negativity. What's that? Oh, just the standard term for when everyone in the kitchen hates each other. The divide between front and back of house is stronger than ever, and it's all pretty predictable. Gordon urges them to take a break, telling Ginny to take Tess home because it's just not healthy. You get the sense that we're just marking time until the big reveal.
They're exhausted on their days off. Chris is obsessed with always talking.
Fast forward to the renovation. Yay, new decor. Gordon takes Chris to meet with a professional to work through his issues. And this part feels like a half-hearted attempt to add some depth, but honestly, we're just looking for something new. Chris finally admits he feels like a hostage to the restaurant, which is a big moment. But we can't help but think, didn't we just hear this?
This looks amazing.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Welcome to your new restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
When Chris returns to the revamped Love Bites, things start off well. They've cut down the menu and customers are loving the new dishes. But surprise, surprise, it's not long before Chris starts slipping back into his old ways. The kitchen begins to struggle again, and it's like we're stuck in a time loop. Gordon tries to get him to slow down, but it's the same old story of anxiety and chaos.
I have no eggs over here.
But it's not long until Chris is back to his old ways.
Look at me.
Just chill.
Breathe.
All right.
When Chris accidentally throws a rag at Gordon, you can almost hear the collective groan from the audience. It's a classic moment that just feels so overdone. The pressure mounts, and Chris is back to worrying about being behind, while Gordon has to step in again. It's exhausting to watch because it feels like we're just waiting for the same resolution we've seen a million times.
But it's not long until Chris is back to his old ways.
Look at me.
Just chill.
Breathe.
All right.
Breathe.
Tess and her mom arrive for dinner, and you can see a flicker of hope in Tess's eyes. She loves the new look, but it's bittersweet because you know they've just been through the ringer. Gordon sits down with them, wishing them luck, but reminding them that they need time to breathe. It's a nice sentiment, but it also feels like a cue for the credits to roll.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so beautiful.
And a streamlined menu.
I'm very excited about the menu.
In the end, this episode of Kitchen Nightmares just feels like more of the same. The drama, the fights, the emotional breakdowns, it's all here. But it's missing that spark of originality that keeps you glued to the screen. We need some fresh stories, new conflicts, and characters who break the mold. Here's hoping the next episodes bring something unexpected, because right now, it feels like we're stuck in a loop that needs a serious reboot. One Redditor nailed it when they summed up the latest Kitchen Nightmares season as incredibly formulaic. They pointed out how every episode seems to follow the exact same script. While this was partially true in earlier seasons, it's way more rigid now. It always starts with terrible food, Gordon's disgusted reaction being the only part that feels genuine. Then, we get a backstory on the characters, and it's instantly clear who's the problem. It's usually either an inexperienced owner, an overconfident chef who doesn't want advice, or a family member who claims they do everything. Dinner service? Predictably awful. Gordon shuts it down, which used to be rare but now happens every episode. Then comes the refurb reveal, with everyone shocked as if they haven't watched the show before. Gordon offers a single piece of brilliant insight and introduces a new menu, featuring wings and sliders, of course. The reopening starts well, things go south, some VIP's food is late, and Gordon reminds the staff of his earlier advice. Crisis averted, the night ends as a huge success, and the cycle repeats the next week. Exactly. So, was Season 8 a total failure? Not entirely. Chef Ramsay is always entertaining, and there are still a few moments of pure Gordon gold. But the magic? That lightning in a bottle feeling from the early seasons? It's gone, or at least severely watered down. Maybe we've just seen too much at this point. Kitchen Nightmares used to feel like a rescue mission for doomed restaurants. Now it feels more like another stop on the endless Chef Ramsay reality show train. Sometimes, when you try to revive something that's been gone too long, it just doesn't hit the same spot. It's like reheating leftovers, still edible, but it'll never taste as good as the first time around. And that's a wrap on why the new season of Kitchen Nightmares was a failure. What do you think of the new season? Make sure to let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And whether Chef Ramsay helps them or not, some restaurants are just meant to fail, and some are meant to succeed. Just like these restaurants that left Chef Ramsay stunned.
That doesn't mean the owner is lacking confidence.
I don't believe there's a better operator or restaurateur than me.